Okay, so this afternoon I'm speaking to Jimmy Pearce, who's an area manager for the TSB Bank. So, Jimmy, that's your job title. So tell me a bit more about the role, what it involves on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, so I've been an area manager now for the last 5 years in TSB, the big bank that used to be Lloyd's TSB and then separated into two. So my job is I look after a huge area which starts in Prestatyn in North Wales and goes all the way across to Longton in Stoke-on-Trent and Buxton just outside Manchester, and then all the way down to Cannock. So it's a big geographical area. My role as an area manager is on capability. And what my job is to do is to look after the training and development of all the staff. So looking after 128 people, making sure they've all got their training up to date, and making sure that customer service is, the best it can possibly be in the bank, and that all falls on my shoulders.
And that's all your responsibility. It's all your fault.
Yes.
Okay, and in terms of, I mean, obviously banks are quite big organisations, but what other sorts of roles are there? Because I mean, from what you've said, it sounds as though you have kind of an HR type role.
Well, you might think it is a HR role, and a lot of the time there are some HR activities within my role because I look after people. It is a big part of my role, but I don't fall under the HR remit. Right. So the bank has a HR department, and our HR representatives work all over the country. They're not necessarily in an office. They're field-based and office-based.
Yeah.
And we have an operations department which look after the running of the bank. So things like property, the fixing of equipment, that type of stuff. Our IT department falls under operations, for example. Yeah. And that's actually a Microsoft Office Centre as well. So although we're TSB, we actually sublet to Microsoft as well, who use our buildings. Okay. We then have the branch operations, which is where I fall into. And that's everybody that you see in the day-to-day running of a branch. Yeah. We have our telephony team. So when customers call on their phone into the bank, then they'll go through to one of either our call centres, or they sometimes even go to some of our branch staff, depending on how busy our call centres are. If they're too busy to cut call waiting times down, they'll divert them to specialist people in branches.
Oh, right. Okay.
We have a digital banking side now because digital is huge. Sure. Most of the people that you teach will probably be more used to the digital way of working than they will be towards the branch way of working.
What's a checkbook? No idea.
Exactly. My nephews are exactly the same.
Yeah.
We still use faxes in the bank, and they were like, "What's a fax machine?"
What's a fax machine?
So our digital department looks after the mobile apps that you see on your phones, and they look after the internet banking side of things as well. And then that all has to link into the bigger picture, which is then run by our strategy team, who then look at marketing, sales, products and services. Yeah. So there's so many different job opportunities within banking organizations that can fit different types of people as well. I'm more of a people person. Yeah. So, my job is face-to-face customer service, where if you're more an analytical type of person that likes computer science, for example, there's definitely still jobs within banks and organizations that would fit your type of personality as well.
Fantastic. I mean, one thing that I'm looking at, and I want to explore a bit more about your kind of path, as it were. But one thing I'm looking at is like the different ways into different roles, and some roles are naturally going to be an academic path. Others may take kind of more of an apprenticeship, or sometimes a very circuitous route. You might think, I'm going to start out doing one thing, and then eventually you end up doing something completely different. So how can you just talk me through kind of your background and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually went to university and did a degree in criminology, which is absolutely nothing to do with banking.
As you do.
When I left school, I suppose I was in that mindset of I wanted to continue learning, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. And a lot of people fall into that category. They do a course because they enjoy that course, as opposed to it being the course that could actually set them up for their future. Sure. If I was clever back then, I would have done a business degree or something like that, because that might have accelerated me faster through my learning. However, some people get great degrees and move really quickly, and some people don't and have to find other ways in. So for me, it was actually a bit of both there. So I had a degree, but it was actually useless in the banking organisation. But when I went in at a sales level. I went in, right at the bottom, and I learned the job from the bottom,
Sure.
and accelerated my progression based upon my success.
Mm-hmm.
In business, your education is a really good starting factor in your career. And as your career gets further and further and further, it becomes more about the experiences that you have as well. And if you can get that combination of both right, then you're gonna move a lot quicker than I did.
Yeah.
So I went from salesperson to senior salesperson,
Mm-hmm.
to branch manager of Black Horse Finance, which is no longer exists anymore,
Okay.
to bank manager,
Mm-hmm.
all within the first 5 years of me being there.
Okay.
So that was really fast, accelerated pace,
Mm.
and it's because I had a passion and a want to do that. You don't have to accelerate. You can go in at basic levels and stay there at the basic levels. It depends on what you enjoy, but I enjoy the career progression, and I like a little bit more money in my pocket as well. So
yeah, it's always nice.
They come hand in hand. So after 5 years then of being a successful bank manager, I then got promoted to area mortgage manager and went into a different part of the business, to get some more breadth of experience. I did a bit in collections, I did a bit in operations, etc., just to give my wealth of knowledge. Some of the jobs I hated, but I needed to do them to get the experience to move forward. So sometimes you're going to have to do things, that you don't like to move forward in life. And that's the same with everything in everybody's career. But it got that area manager position, by the time I was probably in my 30s. So it was just at the beginning of my 30s when I got area manager. That came with a lovely car as well. So, it was nice to have that, the nice salary, health benefits as well that come along with that. So that's a bit of a journey through my career.
Fantastic. I mean, in terms of what you do, I mean, it's not just about the hard sums. It's about soft skills. It's about people skills. It's about how you relate to people and support people. In terms of advising, say, pupils at CCSC, I mean, what steps would you? I mean, I would imagine that being proficient at maths is going to be a necessity, but moving on from school to college and what have you, what would you recommend as, I suppose, a good path to follow if they want to work in banking?
Okay, so it depends, because you can work in banking, having many different interests, as I said before. So if you've got for me, I think you've got to be passionate about what you do. You've got to like what you do. So if you like computers, go with your heart and go for a computer generated course that's going to get you there, because there's so many opportunities there in digital. There's so many opportunities in our IT departments, etc. Building new systems as well is a really big part of it. If you're like me and you like the customer experience side of things, there are many courses you could do at university that could really boost your way that you interact with people. Drama is a really great one if you're going in customer experience. That interaction with other people, empathy, learning all of those soft skills as you talk about there. Your personality is huge. English literature, the way that you speak to people, the way that you talk. If you're going into that customer experience side of things. Mathematics, everybody laughs at me because mathematics wasn't my strength in school. It was never, and I went to be a bank manager, and my maths teacher actually uses my branch now, and he comes in and goes, "This is what's the matter with the world." It's like, so you don't have to be great at everything to have the right skill sets to go into there. I was more a people person, so my strengths were more along the what do you call it, like your histories, your sociologies, your psychologies, those types of the softer sciences, as opposed to the mathematical side. Now there are great people that work in risk, that do need to know their numbers. They do need to know that I've pressed the plus button rather than the minus button on the till. And and some people that like numbers but not necessarily don't want to work with customers. There's lots of jobs within the bank that they can do using mathematics and different things. So my big my biggest advice is don't close yourself off to education that you want. Go and get the education you want, and then find the job within the business that suits your personality and experience.
Fantastic. I mean, what would you say is kind of the best and the worst aspects of the job?
Okay, for me, I think that's going to be different for everybody. As I said, everybody's different. And for me, I think in an area manager role, I love having positive conversations with people, but sometimes there's a need to have a negative conversation with somebody. It might be that we've had a customer that comes in who's lost a loved one, a bereavement in their family, and they need to close their bank account, and it can be quite a challenging situation to be in. Having somebody crying their eyes out on the other side of the room whilst they're closing their loved one's account. So that's always a challenge. But there's always them great benefits to doing that as well, when you can put your arm around them to say, we're going to look after you here as well. Dealing with complaints, nobody wants to deal with an irate customer coming through the door. And I do actually training and development of partners. We call our staff partners, by the way, in TSB. So we do some training of all of our staff in TSB of how to become somebody that doesn't fight against a complaint, but actually take somebody through a complaints journey with them. So we're not sticking up for TSB all the time. Actually, let's get by the side of the customer and let's take them through a journey and see if we can get them the right outcome, which is more important. So they're probably the worst aspects of the customer service type of roles. The best things are when you've done your first mortgage for a customer and they're able to buy their first home. What an amazing experience! Or when a kid comes in and opens their first bank account, so that they've got that money habit of saving money and going out with that positive footstep in the world. So many pros, so many different things that actually there's more pros that outweigh the cons, I suppose.
Absolutely. I mean, from what you said, it's all about the people. It's not about anything else. It's the positive impact that you can have on people, even in a situation, as you highlighted, that could be perceived as being really quite negative.
Yes.
So it's about turning that round into a positive. I mean, one final question from me. What would you like to do if you weren't doing this?
Oh crikey! The reason I went
Go on.
The reason I went to university to study criminology is because I was obsessed with, and the kids are not going to know these characters, Columbo and and Murder She Wrote. I used to always want to be a detective, and that was my dream, was to be a detective. So for me, that was why I went to university. So that would be my dream job. If I could do anything different, I'd do it again.
Right. Okay. So that's the challenge. We need to see you as a detective.
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. Jimmy, thanks ever so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Good luck, everyone.
Bye-bye.